If you or a loved one are taking an ADHD medicine and you're wondering if you should quit, watch this video and I'll help you decide. Hello everyone and welcome to the channel where we endeavor to educate, equip, and encourage anybody who's raising a child with a special health care need or behavioral difficulty. My name is Dr. Nate Noble. I'm a developmental behavioral pediatrician and clinical geneticist. And I'm making these videos because there's 19 million people just like you who are waiting on wait lists like mine. And I'm hoping that this information will help you skip the line. If there's anything of redeeming value in this video, please like and subscribe. That way we can get this information to more people. In this video, I'm talking about my personal experience with ADHD medicines. I've been on a bunch of them. If you go back and watch my other videos, it won't surprise you that there's a very high likelihood that I have ADHD, and you would actually turn out to be correct. In this video, I'm talking about my journey. As a physician, I was identified as having ADHD in fellowship. I want to talk to you about the medicines. I want to talk to you about my experience, and I want to talk to you about how I came to the conclusion that these medications were not for me. Please understand that I prescribe these medicines all the time. If there's anything that I get thanks for, if there's any time that a family writes a letter, a handwritten letter on papyrus, and they want to tell me about how much they've appreciated the services we provided, it's almost always about ADHD medications and the difference that is made in the lives of children. So please understand me. The point of this video is not stay away from medicines, they're bad, they're wrong. I think these medicines are fantastic. And I'm telling you this from personal experience, but even fantastic things come to a spot where you have to determine if this is right for you moving forward. This video is my story. In this video, I talk about how I was diagnosed with ADHD and the steps that were taken, and then I go through my 6 reasons why I stopped taking these medicines. Let's start with how I was identified. I went to medical school, so I did well in school up to that point in time, but like a lot of people, I graduated to my level of incompetence. I was smart enough to do well up to that point in time, but there comes a spot where no matter how much hustle you have, there has to be an innate ability to focus and attend to tasks in order to consume the information in a timely manner. And in medical school, things come at you pretty fast. But with a lot of hustle and a lot of grit, I was able to get through medical school and into residency. And it was in residency that I first started to realize that I didn't quite have the same skill set or ability to hold a lot of information in the ways that my colleagues did. Let me give you an example. Oftentimes in the mornings and the evenings when we're checking in or checking out from being on call, it's necessary to take down multiple information about multiple patients with things that you need to watch for and things you need to follow up on. Now, when you have trouble taking in information, you have to learn to be incredibly disciplined in how you do that. And it was very easy for me in the initial stages of residency to become somewhat overwhelmed by all the details and nuances of all the different things that needed to occur. But thankfully, I had good mentors that would help me to develop systems that I could put in place to take copious notes and follow through on the things that needed to be dealt with. Now, while this allowed me to be fairly successful on the wards, where it did not help me was when I had to sit down and take tests. In medical school, I struggled taking tests. In residency, I struggled taking tests. It's common for all pediatricians in training around the country to sit down and take what's called an in-training exam. And this is an exam where you have to sit down and sit in a room with fluorescent lights and the buzzing sounds and people shuffling in their seats, and you gotta take a pencil. Back then, we used pencils. And we would fill in bubbles and do things and be really studious and pay attention for multiple hours. And my first year of doing this as an intern, okay, so that's the first year of residency, I was taking this test, trying to do the best I could, showing my colleagues and my attendings that I was smart enough to be at the table. But during this test, I kept falling asleep and nodding off and thinking about unicorns and thinking about, you know, where are unicorns and if they're real. I just would think about all these different things instead of the test about renal insufficiency. Long story short, when we got our first year in training exam scores back, I got a 0. I got a 0. Okay, now listen, you're thinking, well, this guy shouldn't be making YouTube videos, or maybe that's all he should be doing is making YouTube videos. But I got a 0. Listen, that doesn't mean I didn't get anything right. Okay, it didn't mean I got 0 things correct. It just means that as you compare me to everybody else taking the test, nobody did worse than me. So in some ways, I gave a lot of people some really great opportunities, right? Somebody's got to be the base. That was this guy. I figured it out. I went through residency. I studied hard. I learned how to take these tests in a little bit better fashion, but I still struggled. And I eventually finished residency and went on to fellowship. In fellowship, I was in developmental behavioral pediatrics, fellowship, clinical genetics. And my fellowship director asked me, I see that you got a 0 on your in-training exam score as an intern. Were you sick that day? And I said, no, I wasn't sick. I just did terrible. What? Not sick. Just did terrible. And so then my colleagues, they identified me as somebody who could have some ADHD, so they sent me to a psychologist who did the test, leaned back in the chair, and said, have you ever considered that you could have ADHD? And I said, huh. I said, sir, if that's true, it would explain a lot of things. Many of the things, a multitude of the things would be explained by what you've just said to me. He sent me to a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist agreed with the findings and started me on a medicine. Okay, I started out on Ritalin, and then I went to Concerta, and then I transitioned to Adderall, and then I went to Vyvanse, and I don't think I was on any other medicines, but that's a pretty good mystery tour of medicines to get a sense for how they work. And I stayed on these medicines for several years until I was running a clinic on my own and decided that it was time to quit. These are the 6 reasons why I quit. Reason number 1. I'm going to put a photo up here and I want you to look at this. This is a photo of me right after I started the developmental clinic in the city of Des Moines where I still work. And I was on, as you can see in this photo, I was definitely on Ritalin at that time, and I can tell by looking at myself because that was me 30 pounds ago. This me that you see in front of the camera could have eaten that me for breakfast. I was 30 pounds lighter than I was now. Reason number 1, the reason I quit is because I didn't like struggling to maintain my weight. It was so difficult. I already had kind of a thin frame, which is fine. But taking these medicines suppressed my appetite to the extent that I wouldn't eat anything. I mean, I wouldn't eat breakfast. I wouldn't eat lunch. Sometimes I would pick a dinner, and then about 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night, I'd get really hungry and just try and make up my calories, but it just never worked. I looked like a scary, educated scarecrow. Not the look I'm going for. Not the look I was going for, okay? So reason number 1, I quit these medicines because I was sick of the weight loss. But man, did I get stuff done. Now understand that this doesn't mean this is going to be the experience for you or your kids. This was my experience, okay? And again, I prescribe these medicines because sometimes the juice is worth the squeeze and you get so much benefit out of using these medicines that you stay on them. Reason number 2, I quit taking these medicines because I was sick of the crash, okay? I tell families this all the time. Using these medications helps a great deal as it pertains to treating school, treating the workday, treating the 7 to 5. You take a medicine, take it in the morning, maybe take another dose at lunch, and it helps you become really focused and attentive during the school or work day. But what happens when the school/work day is over? You fall out of an 8-story window. And you come home after school and these kids and me after work, and it felt like I was just bouncing on the pavement after falling out of an 8-story window because these medications are no longer effective and I'm just left with a heaping dose of what happened to me. And I'm coming home, the medicine is worn off, so I'm kind of worn out, right? My brain has been pumping out and helping me focus and attend to tasks. My kids needed 110% of me, and I wasn't able to give it because I was operating at 50% because I was just so burnt from being on these medicines and falling out this window. Reason number 2, I quit, the crash. Reason number 3, the feeling of dependence. Listen, these medicines are not addicting. Okay? It's not like you take them and your body needs more of them. It's not like you start taking these medicines and your body is addicted and so you have to wean off slowly. It's not like that, okay? Take them or don't take them, all right? Use them, don't use them. It's like lights on, lights off, okay? So, but what happened was psychologically I began to believe that I couldn't function without these medicines. So now we're on a vacation, or now it's a Saturday, and I've got to take my medicine because I just don't think I can attend to task in the right way to be fully available and present for my kids. But really, that's not necessarily what happened, which I'm going to talk about in another one of my reasons. But the truth is, I felt like I couldn't function. I'd have to make sure I had enough pills to go on vacation, or if I was going home for the holidays. And it just got to the point where I asked myself, what am I doing? Like, I lived a lot of my life without having these medicines to help me pay attention while I'm watching a movie, dealing with kids, or helping my wife make dinner. Like, why do I need to take these medicines now? I didn't like feeling like I was dependent on anything, so I quit. Reason number 4. Irritability and excitability. So I'd be in my office and I'd be working, and man, I've got my headphones on and I'm listening to something and I'm jamming out and I'm getting stuff done. I've got I've got 4 arms, I got 4 hands. I mean, I'm so incredibly efficient. It's amazing. And one of my coworkers would come in and they'd need something from me, and I wouldn't be able to hear them because I had my headphones on. And I would see them out of the corner of my eyes, and I would jump so, it's almost like I jumped through the ceiling. They scared me so much, right? I was so excitable, so like, almost, and I was so irritable. I would just jump and I'd react, you know, because my body, my engine, my RPMs, okay, was idling as an engine, was idling like 8,000 RPMs. I was always on the edge, always hustling, always thinking. A million things are firing at the same time. The medicines were effective, and they don't always do this with everybody else, but for me, this is what they did, and I ended up being a person who was incredibly effective and incredibly efficient, but very excitable and irritable while the medications were working. Reason number 5. Sometimes these medications really help me be alive and awake and alert and attentive and present fully, but there were other times when they would make me feel withdrawn, almost like the medicines were too effective. And it took me beyond the point of being focused and engaged and creative, and it took me past that point to where I was almost like I was withdrawn. This is commonly described by individuals as being zombie-like. Listen, these medicines aren't sedating, okay? They don't make people sleepy, but they can make individuals withdrawn. One of the #1 reasons that I stop these medicines in kids is because they become so withdrawn. So their life becomes less about lateral movements and going on playground equipment and having fun and doing all these crazy things and, you know, looking at rocks and having just being kids. And it becomes less of lateral movements, and it becomes more of a long, dark hallway. Right? So it's a 6-hour hallway, it's a 12-hour hallway, and at the end there's an exit sign blinking. And you've got to walk to that exit sign every day. And some kids do it well and they get through it and they maintain that spark, that vibrance, that joie de vivre. But other people like me, I became sometimes withdrawn, where I would try and be present, I try and be available, but it's like the medications were just too effective and they took me past the point of no return. And then I just became kind of zoned. And this is how I am. So that was very unusual. And it would happen at the most inopportune times. Meetings I wanted to attend where I had to speak, difficult conversations that needed to be had, when I needed to be fully engaged with my kids and animated and, you know, just present. And then I've got this kind of veil over me. I'm just distanced. You know, it's like the windows, it's like the store is open and you can see people moving around in there. The sign on the door says open, but the door is locked and people are knocking on the windows trying to figure out, is anything in there? Like, can you hear me? Sometimes I felt like that. Reason number 6, sustainability. Now listen, what I tell families when they come back after having success with an ADHD medicine is I say, look, don't get used to this, okay? Now, over time, children will grow. They'll get bigger and we need to increase the dose to keep up with their growth. But oftentimes, medications in general can lose some of their teeth, all right? Or you have the perception that they're losing their teeth. And so what would happen is you would work with your physician and the dose would sometimes be increased. Sometimes you go to a short acting, which is maybe you only need 4 hours of effect a day or 6 hours of effect, and you go to a long acting where now you're telling yourself you need 12 hours. And to be fair, a lot of people do. But then you think, well, but this 12-hour thing, maybe, you know, I'm starting to fall off a little bit at 2 or 3 o'clock, and, you know, maybe I need an increased dose in the morning, and then maybe I need a booster dose. And then you start telling yourself a story. Now, kids don't do this, okay? So you have to get external information about this. How do the teachers think about this? How does the parents feel about this? But as adults, we'll do this. We'll tell ourselves a story. Like, I don't know, I wasn't Johnny on the spot at 4:45 at that Tuesday meeting during Zoom when, you know, I was up doing Taebo at 4 a.m. So I feel like I wasn't quite focused. I think I might need a booster or I need a bit higher dose. And I found that I was telling myself this story. And to be fair, this is true for a lot of people. But for me, me, I started to feel like I was telling myself a story, and the medicines kept getting increased, and I kept asking myself, to what end? To what end? But the sixth and final reason that I quit taking these medications is because I just didn't feel like it was sustainable. I sincerely hope this video has been helpful. It's hopefully providing you with a unique perspective because I'm a physician who prescribes these medicines, but I'm also a physician who's taken these medicines. I know exactly how they make you feel. I know what you love. I know what you hate. I can finish your sentences, and what I'm telling you is I still prescribe them because I absolutely know they can be effective, but there comes a point when everybody has to ask these kinds of questions and determine if the juice is worth the squeeze. Prescribe them, I believe in them, and I no longer take them. If your child is on a medicine, please don't take this as a reason to stop these medicines. If you're taking them and you see benefit and effect and your child doesn't have these problems, by all means, proceed. Follow up with your regular doctor. Please remember, I'm a doctor, but I'm not your doctor, okay? If you want to know more about this information, talk to your prescribing physician and come to a conclusion that's right for you and your family. Don't feel bad about taking a medicine if it's needed, and don't feel bad about quitting a medicine if you feel like it's not. Thanks for watching. More videos to come.